Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. Not all expenses are created equal. Some are practically useless and you shouldn't be spending any money on them. That's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to tell you some expenses that I do not have at all. I spend $0 on the following expenses, but some people are still spending money on these and it kind of like boggles my mind that they are. Now starting with number one is cell phone payments. I think this is really just a scam. If you take the average cost of a new, high-end cell phone, it could be $1,000, maybe $1,200. The way that they make this look affordable to most people is that they split it up into payments over, let's say, 24 months. So instead of paying $1,200 all at once, you are going to be paying $50 per month for that phone. And I think this is a scam because by the time that phone approaches the year end, it's already time to replace it. So you're pretty much stuck with a phone payment forever. And I've always paid cash for my phones and I've never picked a high-end phone because literally the phones that are 1/4 of the price do pretty much the exact same thing, or they do pretty much everything that you're going to realistically need them to do for a quarter of the price. So I do not make phone payments and I don't think that you should either. Number two, this is not as crazy. I kind of do understand this one, but I still don't spend any money on this category. I don't spend any money on books or audiobooks. And that's because I live about 1.5 miles away from my local library. And I love going to the local library because I can get all of these books for free because they have both services for physical books that you can check out and plenty of awesome audiobooks that you can check out on their, the apps that they have. So libraries are a lot more modernized than they used to be. And it's really easy to check out all kinds of books that you're ever going to be interested in for free. So no real need to buy a book that you might read once and then you'll have it cluttering your home forever. Now I understand that some people are really into having a book collection, and okay, I completely understand that if it brings you value. But for me, I'm looking for the knowledge and I'm looking for the entertainment of books and audiobooks, and I can utilize my local library. It's only 1.5 miles from my house and I will continue to do so. So if you want to eliminate an unnecessary expense, go and utilize your local library. Number three, overpriced plane tickets. Yeah, plane tickets can be crazy expensive or they can be surprisingly cheap. The great thing about now is that you can go online, you can look up historical prices for pretty much any flight pattern from pretty much any airline, and you can see how expensive it's been and how cheap it can be. Okay, so one thing that a lot of people like to utilize is Google Flights. Okay, so they have all kinds of cool graphs and historical data on how much it costs to fly from point A to point B. So you can look at that and see, am I going to be getting a good price if I purchase it for these specific dates? Sometimes you're getting a really great price, sometimes you're getting an average price, sometimes you're paying way more than you need to. And the reason why I don't pay for overpriced plane tickets is twofold. First off, I do a little bit of travel credit card hacking where I get some points by going after some bonuses on credit cards, so I'm able to get pretty much free flights on some of those. But number two is that I have flexibility. So now that I'm living a financially independent life, I don't have to be fixed, to 100% on these very specific dates that someone who's still working that 9 to 5 might have to do. That means that I get to choose a little bit more flexible when I choose my plane tickets, and so I can strategically choose the cheaper dates that fit when I want to travel, but also when the airline wants to sell me those tickets at a really low price. So I feel really bad if you have the high expense of paying overpriced plane tickets. Get some more flexibility in your life and you won't have that expense. Number four, if you cannot already tell just by looking at me, I have some crazy hairdo going, and that's because I don't pay for haircuts. Yep, I have a free barber at home. I call her my wife, and she cuts my hair free. I don't even give her any kind of tip. But seriously, so I don't pay for haircuts. I don't think it's really necessary. And what's funny about this is that the first person that got me onto this idea was Mr. Money Mustache. I just remember reading an article a long time ago about having, literally having some clippers and just using them for both your beard and for your hair on top of your head. And so that kind of stuck with me. And ever since I've done that. I have never paid for a haircut since, pretty much. So if you don't mind having, a weird looking haircut like me, then consider not paying for any more haircuts, okay? It's an expense that is pretty much unnecessary. Did you know that there is one thing that doesn't cost you a single penny? Not even a tenth of a penny, okay? This is completely free. One thing that's not gonna cost you anything is hitting that like button. So hit that like button if you're enjoying this video so far. I really appreciate it. It really does help me out. Doesn't cost you a single penny. Number 5, I can't believe that people still do this, and I cannot believe that people still pay for cable TV. Literally, what are we doing here? Cable TV, I've looked at some of the prices just to laugh, and it's extremely expensive to pay for cable TV. You might be getting hundreds of channels, but you only really watch 1, 2, maybe 3 of them, and then literally 50% of your time is seeing advertisements. So you're paying so much money just to watch 50% of your time to be advertised to. Cable TV is just a mess. I really hope it disappears one of these days. It's way overpriced, and there are so many great alternative options out there. One great alternative option that I would suggest that you do is to simply just switch between streaming services like every month or every few months, whatever you want to do. And that's because you could pay, let's say, $10 a month for a streaming service, have it for a month, and there's no obligation. You can cancel, and then you can start up a new one, and you can do that one for a few months. You probably shouldn't be watching that much TV or that much, Netflix or Hulu or whatever it is that much anyway. So do yourself a favor. Don't have a cable bill. Only have like one streaming service at a time, and you'll save a ton of money, because otherwise it's a super unnecessary expense. Number 6 is even worse than number 5 when it comes to I cannot believe that people are still paying for this. And number 6 is going to be long-term storage. Unless you have very specific circumstances where you're off traveling the world and you still have a few items that you need to store, why are people still paying for long-term storage? Do you really have that much stuff that you literally don't need, so you're literally putting it into storage? It just boggles my mind. And this is probably kind of hurts me a little bit because of the whole minimalist thing that I follow, the plain black t-shirts. Just having so much stuff in general, I think even if you're not kind of minimalist or anything like that, it's so unnecessary. And we're talking, possibly $100 a month or something like that for this storage unit. Long-term storage, except for very specific circumstances, like if you're moving and you need to store it for a little bit of time, or if you're literally gone overseas and you need to store some stuff or something like that, except for very specific circumstances, you should not be paying for long-term storage. Number 7 is a smaller deal, it's a little bit smaller of a deal here, but it's still, I think, a pretty big deal. Number 7 is paying rent for a internet router, okay, so or a Wi-Fi router. So you have to actually pay for your service, which is the router, but for the thing that creates the Wi-Fi signal in your house. You might not even know this, but you could be possibly renting it from whoever is providing your internet service, and they could be charging you, $5, $10 a month to rent the Wi-Fi router that spreads the Wi-Fi signal throughout your house. Whereas you could just go and purchase this very similar router that performs the same thing for, let's say, $50 to $100. I don't know, I haven't checked on the price of them lately, but probably around $50 you can get a basic router that's good enough for most of us. Therefore, if you're paying $10 a month, that router is going to pay for itself in 5 months, for that example. And you're probably going to have the same router for a few years at least. And so you don't really need to be paying rent, or you don't need to be renting a router from your internet service provider. You should just buy your own, and then it's going to pay for itself in a few months. So it's really an unnecessary expense if you're renting a Wi-Fi router. Next up at number 8, it's a little bit more controversial because some people are very passionate about this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. Life insurance. Number 8 is life insurance. I don't pay for life insurance, and that's because at this point in my life, I don't have the need to pay for life insurance in my personal opinion, okay? So I have a good amount of net worth already built up, and isn't that kind of the point of life insurance? If you're the primary breadwinner, be able to pay for your dependents to make sure that they don't go into abject poverty if you pass away or no longer able to provide the bread. So if we have a good amount of assets built up, like those of us in the financial independence community, if we are able to live a financially independent life, theoretically with no other income coming in, then why would we need life insurance per se? Unless for, very specific circumstances. But I think, as a general rule, if we have enough money to live on the rest of our life and be financially independent, then why would we need life insurance? There are some reasons why you probably need life insurance, but for me, I think at this point in my life, being financially independent, it's an unnecessary expense. Number 9 is one that's a little bit more fun to say because it's a very unique circumstance, and that is having no rent or mortgage. Now, I'm not very surprised that most people have to pay rent or to pay a mortgage, but at least right now in my life, I do have a paid off house, and so I don't have a mortgage bill, and of course I don't have a rent bill either because I am a homeowner. And it's really great while you're living a financially independent life to not have that large fixed expense. But at the same time, I don't think that necessarily this is the most optimal choice or this is the best choice for most people. I think in some circumstances, it might actually be better to have a mortgage, or it might actually be better to just rent maybe a smaller place rather than a larger home. This is one I just wanted to add in there that I don't have this expense, and that's because I made a very specific choice to have a paid off house for now. Number 10 is pretty fun, and that's because this is almost going back to the basics, but you probably still have some people in our lives that still are paying for these, and that is banking fees. Right now, with the internet age that we have here, we have so many great online banks. We don't even need to go into a brick and mortar bank anymore for almost any reason, and with that comes no banking fees. Okay, so no one should be paying banking fees, in my opinion. No one should be paying a monthly maintenance fee. No one should be paying a minimum balance fee. No one should be paying a overdrawn fee or anything like that. So I don't think anyone should be paying any kind of banking fees. And if you are, then you need to switch your banks, okay? If you need a bank that doesn't charge any banking fees, I do have one listed over at oncashflow.com/resources. Right now, that bank that I recommend is CIT Bank. Okay, it's a really easy online bank to open up a bank account, and they have literally absolutely no banking fees. So it could be a really great option if you're still paying any kind of banking fees. And similar to that, number 11 is investment fees. What a great time to be alive. What a great time to be an investor, because people used to have to pay like $5, $6, $7, $8 each time they would buy and sell a share of mutual fund or a share of a stock or something like that. So what a great time to be alive. We don't have to pay anything. We can make 1,000,000 buys, 1,000,000 sells, and we pay $0 in commission nowadays. So it's a great time to be an investor, and because you don't have to pay any kind of investment fees. And if for some very odd reason you're still paying like investment fees for trading or something like that, then you need to get on the bandwagon of not paying any. And if you need a recommendation for a great platform to invest your money, then I would choose M1 Finance. I've personally put pretty much all of my money into M1 Finance, all of my investments, because I love the simple layout and the way that I can manage my asset allocation. You can also go to oncashflow.com/resources, because on there I have M1 Finance. You can check out why I use them. One of the ways that you can get yourself to financial independence faster is by reducing your expenses in a really smart way. And that's why, if you haven't already, I did create a full guide for you on how to reduce your expenses and achieve financial independence by doing so. So that video you do need to watch next if you haven't watched it already. It's gonna pop up right next to me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from oncashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.